Hey folks, hope you're all doing well and welcome to episode 10 of Recommend an Album to Review. Alright, so for this week, I got a record that was recommended to me by a band I never listened to before, an album I never listened to before. Did a little bit of research. Turns out this was kind of a super group back in the day. This record came out in 1971. The band featured Rod Evans, who former Deep Purple singer. There was a couple of Iron Butterfly guys in there, the guitar player and the bass player, and the drummer had come from the Johnny Winters band. So the album I'm talking about, the band is called Captain Beyond, and the record I'm talking about is Captain Beyond. Now, what it's interesting when you listen to like stuff from this period, like early 70s. I mean, a lot of the experimentation was going on with some of these bands. It's like there was no sort of ceiling or limit to what they can do, and they were given a chance in the studio to just kind of go nuts. And that's kind of what I hear a lot of on this record. I mean, you've got, some blues rock, some hard rock, some almost, heavy metal, pre-metal, proto-metal, whatever you want to call it. Some prog in there as well, maybe touches of jazz. I hear a little Santana-ish sprinklings here and there. It's like everything. And the songs kind of, this is kind of, and there's also a little bit of psychedelia too, I find in this. This is like Rush before Rush, but with psychedelia, because Rush didn't have any of that. That's where, like, what I mean by that is I'm not saying they sound like Rush, but that's the way the songs go, because there's, parts that go into different parts that go into different parts. And so a song is just a bunch of parts strung together. And I think there's like three main pieces in this that are all kind of broken up, but I think there's three main pieces in this. And I mean, and it runs the gamut, there's a lot of instrument, kind of jammy areas. There's some singing parts, and there's some really good riffs and some really cool grooves and some nice acoustic work at times. The guitar work, I should say this, the musicianship on this record is amazing. These guys are great players. And the other thing I should mention is, and I don't know, I find that I generally like more of the 70s recordings than the 80s, because when I'm listening to this, I'm not hearing all that extra baggage that came with the 80s with those big room reverbs, where the drummer would, hit the snare and it would sound like, it was moving planets, like everything just sounded the way it's supposed to sound. The drums, they were clear. Everything was clear. Everything was clean. The guitars sounded good. The bass was nice and loud, and you can hear, all the bass parts beautifully. Just a really well-recorded record. A very interesting record. This is the type of album that you would kind of put on, in my case, with a cigar and a scotch, and just kind of go for a ride, because these guys will take you on a musical journey through multiple different styles, and it's enjoyable. I mean, it is enjoyable. It's, it's not a very long album, maybe between 30 and 40 minutes, I think. And, it's enjoyable. So it's kind of hard to break this down into tracks, but I'll try, because the fact that, there's a track is several tracks kind of strung together. But, you got Dancing Madly Backwards on a Sea of Air, which again, it's got multiple parts to it. Like, everything that I mentioned, the psychedelia, it's all kind of strewn out throughout all these songs. So, you know what? I'm not even going to try to kind of break it down song by song, because it's not that kind of record. It just, if you want to go for a ride musically, where you want to go through multiple styles, some blues rock, some hard rock, some metal, a little bit of psychedelia, interesting, Um, definitely entertaining. This is an album. Not this is an album for music people. This is not an album, for the general music listener. You could tell these guys were trying to play, kind of very musically intelligent, you know, and trying to entertain other musicians or people that are right into music. And that I get a lot of that from this. But again, if you want to sit down and you really want to get into some cool music that goes through a lot of different changes, and go for a little bit of a ride, an entertaining ride for 30, 40 minutes, I would highly recommend this record. I'm happy that someone sent it, or recommended it. Actually, the reason I picked this one is because I think this came up more than once, so that's why I chose it. Anyway, if you're new to the channel, please consider liking and subscribing. Put in the comments, recommend another album to review. I'll look at the list, I'll pick something out, and we'll do this again next week. So thanks everybody for listening. Have a great rest of your week and an awesome weekend. Cheers.